A big day for President-elect Donald Trump as some major appointments for top positions in his administration are announced. Alabama Republican Senator Jeff Sessions for Attorney General, former Defense Intelligence Chief, retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn for National Security Advisor, and Kansas Republican Congressman Mike Pompeo for CIA Director. All three have been outspoken critics of President Obama's counterterrorism and national security policies. Also, this afternoon, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that President-elect Trump is considering retired General David Petraeus for Defense Secretary. And we are delighted to be joined by Trump Transition Senior Advisor Kellyanne Conway. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Kimberly.
We're very excited to have you on the 5.
So we're going to keep you here.
Exactly, and this was great because it was kind of a last-minute thing, but shows what a worker you are, that you're like, no problem, I'll come straight over at 4 o'clock.
I skipped the motorcade to Bedminster because I needed to finish a little bit of work, and I thought, let's just go over and have some fun.
Did you take the subway?
Happy hour. I didn't. I walked.
You did?
I walked over there today. I walked too because the traffic is crazy over there.
It's just easier.
I love you.
And it's 67 degrees.
Well, I'm a man of the people.
Exactly, and as long as you have some sensible shoes, which I specialize in, you'll be okay. Yeah, exactly. All right, so we want to hear all the latest and greatest about the transition. Obviously, some big announcements today. What kind of feedback are you getting, and how do you feel about those choices?
Excellent choices across the board, Kimberly. These are men of great character, all of whom are qualified to do their jobs on day one, which should be really the first criterion for any presidential appointment. And folks who are loyal to President-elect Trump's vision of the way national security and counterterrorism should go. And in the case of Jeff Sessions of the Department of Justice, I think it's been a very politicized department of late. Hopefully he can bring it back to the calibration where it should be. He's been a well-respected federal prosecutor of 15 years, obviously a United States Senator from Alabama for about 20 years, a U.S. Attorney, I believe, from Alabama. So this is a man who spent his life in legislation and law enforcement. I've gotten to know him very well over the years in his legislative capacity and then certainly as two of the members of Mr. Trump's core team during the campaign. I think they're all excellent choices, and we shouldn't be surprised that President-elect Trump is staffing up with people who share his views on these issues that the American people apparently decided that he would have the upper hand in governing.
And his vision for America. As President Obama once said, elections have consequences. Bowling.
National Security Day was today.
Yes.
And you announced 3 national security advisors, 2 people in the cabinet, 1 advisor. Congratulations, first of all. Number 2, can we put something to rest right here, right now, that the transition team is not in disarray? I mean, this is the media narrative that's been going on for days, and here you have basically 5 announcements in the first 9 days or 10 days since he's been elected. That's fantastic. And firsthand, I will tell you, it's running smoothly.
It really is, and not since we heard again and again that we had no path to victory have I heard something so inaccurate that the transition is not going smoothly. And I appreciated comments just this week, just yesterday really, from David Axelrod, from Vice President Biden, both basically conveying the same message to America, which is you don't form a government overnight. And in the case of Vice President Biden, he very clearly said that he feels confident that Trump and Pence will be ready on day one, that Obama and Biden, were not ready on day one. You can't expect them to. I know the media want stories and names and personnel and then going to attack the people that he puts forward as an extension of the campaign that should be over by now. But at the same time, give us time to really vet and interview. I mean, Trump has spent the better part of 8 days mainly in Trump Tower, doing nothing but talking to heads of state, interviewing candidates for his senior staff or his cabinet, taking the counsel of his advisors and from many outside folks who are calling him. And you see now he's talking to everybody from Carly Fiorina to Ted Cruz. Jeb Bush called him. He's meeting with Mitt Romney tomorrow in Bedminster.
I have to follow up, though, Kellyanne. You know this is coming.
Uh-oh.
What are you going to do? And I honestly think you have to be there. You have to. If anyone knows that man, you know that man.
Well, I know him enough to respect him. I have great affection for him and his family. I'm very happy he's going to be the President of the United States. It's good for the country. And I will serve in my best and highest use. We're just trying to figure out what that is. But he has welcomed me to his administration. And I've said this before, I'll say it here.
What do you want, Kellyanne?
What I want is for my 4 small children to not suffer because their mom is in the White House.
Children, always the children getting in the way.
Not at all, but I would be a hypocrite to say otherwise. But they're great kids, and they'll flourish either way. But I do look. It's an important decision. There are personal and professional considerations at hand, and I know I'll be there for he and Vice President-elect Pence, whom I've been close to for many years, who I was with today, and I think is going to be a phenomenal vice president. But we're figuring that out. I told him, don't worry about me, it'll all come together, but I'll be there.
Were you
Like
serious?
a typical amazing mom, not making it about herself, so we respect that. I think that's important because your role as a mother is hugely important, as to many mothers across the country, too. Dana, you have a question.
Well, I have lots of questions. I guess I want to ask about the news about, well, I don't know if it's news, but the Wall Street Journal reporting about David Petraeus, because I think that would be amazing. And you probably can't comment on it because I know what your position is. So can I ask you about it?
Sure, you can ask
And then you can say no comment?
Just so it's on the record.
Well, but I will tell you about David Petraeus and others. We just seem to have a very long list of possible candidates for each of these positions. I've seen the list, and they're robust. They're filled with people who would not surprise you, and then they're filled with a couple of people who would surprise you. But I think what President-elect Trump is trying to do, Dana, is really think about how everybody would work together. And I know in the heat of the campaign, in the fog of war, people have their gladiator costumes on and they look at each other through a political lens. But the fact is you have to look past that when you're forming a government. I don't want Donald Trump to turn into some mushy Hallmark card. You know, he's a tough leader in America, elected him to be a tough leader and to do some really significant things in short order, and indeed he will. But that aside, this is a man who, in business for many years, knows how to build consensus, knows how to cut deals, knows how to negotiate, but in the best interest of what he is, what his fiduciary duty is. And his fiduciary duty here is to the American people and those that he promised to represent. Having said that, he's meeting with Mitt Romney tomorrow. It doesn't mean it leads to a cabinet position. He's had probably 70 meetings, 60 meetings. Not all of them are going to get cabinet positions. But he learns a great deal. I think in the case of General Petraeus, obviously he's well respected across the aisle. You want the best and the brightest in your administration. This is about America. This is about the world. And in the case of Governor Romney, I think these are two businessmen who will talk about job creation. And I think a lot of what Mitt Romney talked about in 2012 about the world has become true, actually.
That's true. Great point, especially as it relates to Russia. Greg, a sensible question.
Sensible?
Never mind. Skipping to one.
When I want to assess a situation, I call it the RVE. That's the reverse view equation. I turn on the view, and whatever they say, I assume the opposite is actually the truth. And they are apoplectic about these appointments. They're worried about General Flynn. They're worried about Jeff Sessions. Everybody's a racist. What do you make of the hysteria that always seems to happen when there's a Republican in office at the start?
I make of it that many people are still fighting the last war, meaning from 9 days ago, the campaign. Folks, the campaign is over. He is your president, even if you have hashtag not my president. I think, Greg, that everybody was asking the right questions about the wrong candidate and their supporters. They were saying, will Donald Trump accept the election results?
Right.
Will he stop the protesters from, are you kidding me? I couldn't even walk to work last Saturday. There were 20,000 people there not to greet me, called protesters, and some of them not so nice, by the way.
Yeah.
And the fact is that you have to get over it, and you have to realize that no one Donald Trump appoints will make them happy. That's just a fact, because the wrong guy won. They were for the other team, and they're still for the other team, and they're not yet quite Team America, and they should be. So that goes for a whole lot of them. The other thing is, I think most of the media did the world a disservice by not preparing them for the possibility of Donald Trump winning the presidency. It simply was not part of the conversation when it should have been. The cues and clues were there all of the time. People wanted change. They did not trust her like her much. She didn't have a positive, uplifting, aspirational message at the end. He did, actually, at all. Her campaign was about him, and his campaign was about people. So I think that people should have really looked at the electorate differently. I still feel like a lot of these folks who cover America don't understand America, and if that is the one thing I can offer from this election, it's stop listening to each other. You know, those who are breathing the rarefied air of politics or media or the donor class. Stop listening just to each other and start listening to people, because they were very honest from the very beginning about what their fears and frustrations and aspirations were, and they brought it right to the ballot box.
He was listening.
Are you glad you didn't go against Bernie? Do you think Bernie would have had a better chance?
Oh, you mean the general?
Yeah.
No, I don't think this country would elect a socialist. But I did. But
Barack Obama.
But watching the
another socialist.
Watching the Democratic primary, we did see a great deal of vulnerability in Hillary Clinton, and we actually chose states early on like Iowa and then Michigan where she had not done well in the primaries, especially Iowa 2008, where she came in third after Barack Obama and John Edwards. And we thought she really never went back to Michigan to try to sew that up, heal that. I think she went to Flint and a couple of other places. But these states, a lot of these places felt like the Donald Trump message writ large. And people forget Bernie Sanders won 22 states and millions and millions of votes, and threw some shade at her this week on The View, in fact.
On The View.
Kellyanne, I know you was a pollster, so let me ask you two quick polling questions. One is, when you look at Corey Lewandowski going over to London, to the Oxford Union, saying it was Comey in the last weekend that really shifted this election and gave it to Donald Trump. And of course, Donald Trump has said he doesn't know what he's going to do with Comey, and Hillary Clinton has said she believes Comey's responsible. What does the pollster think?
The pollster doesn't agree with either of those wholesale, and here's why. The poll started to tighten before the Comey announcement on October 28th, and it was due in large part to Trump being out there talking about Obamacare. Because at that moment, people were opening up their mailboxes and firing up their computers, and they were getting Obamacare premium increase notices. And Obamacare really is the issue in the off-year elections, Juan, as you know, 2010, 2014.
Absolutely.
That won the Republicans everything. They couldn't do it in 2012 because they nominated the political cover and inspirational blueprint for Obamacare in Romneycare. But that aside, people have felt really frustrated that Obamacare for many Americans is the best example of how invasive, intrusive, expensive.
You think it was Obamacare that did it, not Comey?
No, I think it's a combination of things.
That was a combination of
it was a combination of things.
And then finally,
Comey hurt, but well, and let's be fair. Hillary said on that Friday night, when Comey made his announcement on October 20th, she came out and said, people have already decided about how they feel about the email scandal. Her advisor said on the Sunday shows it's, quote, baked in the cake. So they can't have it both ways. They can't say nobody cares, and then when she loses, oh, my God, this man cost us the election. Listen, she's been running for president for decades.
But
and definitely the last 8 years.
That was Corey said that.
She's been running for president for a very long time. She had all this time to find a better way to connect with the American people, to really scratch the surface of the issues that they tell pollsters they care about. It just wasn't there.
Lack of capacity, and it wasn't heartfelt. She didn't have it in her, so that's what happened.